Regardless if you enjoy One Piece or not, something that has baffled me and many others is how is One Piece able to dominate manga sales for so long? So what sets One Piece apart from the rest? In this video, I'll be going over what I believe to be the one thing One Piece mastered that helped it become the most sold manga in history. If you haven't watched One Piece yet, I don't blame you. It'll most likely ruin other anime. Sorry, fairy tale fans. But seriously, the time it takes to watch One Piece would equal to playing the main story of The Witcher 3, every Elder Scrolls game, watching every Harry Potter movie, all the Marvel movies, One Punch Man, No Game No Life, Death Parade, and still will leave you with enough time to like and subscribe. Now don't get me wrong, I love One Piece, but fuck, it's too long. So I'll give a brief synopsis to the people who haven't watched it yet.
大海賊時代伝説の海賊王ゴールド・ロジャーが残した大秘宝ワンピースをめぐって幾多の海賊たちがしのぎを削るゴムゴムの実を食べゴム人間となった少年モンキー・ディ・ルフィもまた海賊王を目指し海へその存在は世界政府も無視できぬものとなってゆく
There are many reasons why One Piece continues to still be enjoyed even after so many years. However, in this video, I'm going to specifically focus on one thing: fan service. Just kidding, comic relief. Comic relief is an amusing scene, incident, or speech introduced into serious elements to provide temporary relief from tension. If you don't watch a lot of anime, a great example would be its use in Marvel and DC movies.
Why would I put my finger on his throat?
But it's probably unintentional with DC. If you're an anime fan, you won't see it as much, which leads me to believe why it's a big factor when it comes to the overall success of One Piece. Now don't get me wrong, it's used in a lot of anime, but not even close to the level One Piece uses it. Comic relief is important to keep the viewer interested and often goes hand to hand with good pacing. I mean, if you tried watching movies like Infinity War or anime like Hajime no Ippo without comic relief, it suddenly becomes much harder to watch.
Stop it, please!
This is mainly because the viewer needs that break from all the tension or they get tired of the pacing. To make things simple, let's say pacing is like a rhythm. When a rhythm stays the same, it becomes boring and you anticipate what's going to happen next because it's obvious. But when it doesn't, that's when it takes you by surprise and keeps you interested. Because let's face it, a rhythm that's not predictable is a hell of a lot more entertaining than something that is. This is part of the reason why comic relief is so useful in keeping One Piece alive and popular even after 20 years. How many times have you started an anime, then after an episode you're like, fuck, the character is like a Walmart brand product, a bad imitation that's slightly cheaper. Luckily, another plus of comic relief is that it can be used to explore the characters of a story more or show feelings of the character without directly telling the audience. Let me tell you, there's nothing worse than when the creators of an anime cram down the most obvious information. Now you might ask, well, how does comic relief actually help One Piece? Even though it sounds silly, it strengthened the audience's love for the characters and made the pacing more enjoyable. Yes, there are other factors like its great world building and the character development, but comic relief is barely talked about and its enormous effect, especially in a long-running manga and anime like One Piece. A great example of comic relief is during the Dressrosa arc when everything rests on the shoulders of Usopp to knock out Sugar. Sugar is a little girl who turns the citizens of Dressrosa into toys and makes them slaves. Fuck, that sounds wrong. Anyways, when Usopp gets defeated, all hope is lost when suddenly... Honestly, this part kept me interested in the Dressrosa arc, and without it, and many other parts like it, I would have not been able to finish this arc due to its slow pacing. This gives a breather to the audience since we just saw the tragic story of the toy soldier's life and his despair of turning into a toy and being helpless to save the people he cares about. Another great example is during the Enies Lobby arc when Robin is being taken to the gates of justice. This is a very intense moment where Robin is on the verge of being unrescuable. She fights to stall so she can get saved when Spandam assures her that no one will save her. Even if the Straw Hats make it, there's a mine near the entrance that will make sure they don't. When the mine gets set off, the audience loses all hope that Robin will be saved. Since none of the Straw Hats are even close to her, when all of a sudden, this is probably one of the most intense moments in One Piece, which gives it the perfect opportunity to insert some comic relief. The audience gets a breather before going back to the intense fight between Luffy and Lucci and the Straw Hat escape. But the comic relief in this part does more than just relieve us from the tension. It also shows us the importance of Usopp as a character, since let's be realistic, at times he feels more useless than Sakura, Yamcha, and Jar Jar Binks combined, which is not a pretty sight. But one thing stands true about Usopp is that when it counts, he will never miss. So as you can see, comic relief is an important factor in the overall success of One Piece. Maybe not as important as fan service, but it can keep the show and manga interesting even after 20 years of running. The reason is that it can provide the audience with a break during stressful events so the audience can catch a breather and so they don't get tired of the pacing. Comic relief can also help establish characters without cramming it down your throat and goes hand in hand with One Piece's legendary character development. Anime adaptations are often made to increase the sales of manga and are changed by the production committee to make more profit, which usually ruins its story. This happened with Rosario Vampire, a manga which I'm a really big fan of, and one day I decided enough is enough. I'm glad to announce I'll be working on a trailer to make a fan anime version that will be much more true to the manga and will show Tsukune, the protagonist, as a badass instead of a whiny simp he is in the anime. The project will come out in the upcoming weeks. If you're interested, subscribe and hit the bell notification to know when it's out.